It began with a noise that no one inside the small house could explain. A sharp metallic clang echoed from the attic, followed by the dull thud of something heavy hitting the floor. On February 26, 2017, Carabineros Sergeant Boris Olavarría stood in the narrow hallway of a Puerto Montt house, his uniform collar damp with sweat despite the February night's chill. He had been called for domestic disturbance reports before, but nothing like this. From somewhere above, the sound of hurried footsteps crossed the ceiling. There was no one upstairs. His partner swept a flashlight beam toward the attic hatch, catching the glint of a metal trowel resting on the floorboards below. It had not been there seconds earlier. The air in the house felt charged, as if a static storm was about to break. A young man in the kitchen shouted for the officers to come quickly. Olavarría turned the corner and froze. A knife, its handle spinning slightly in midair, hovered at eye level before falling with a clatter onto the tiles. The sergeant's voice was steady when he ordered everyone back, but inside, his thoughts were racing. This was no ordinary call. The family's faces were pale and drawn, their eyes darting to the corners of the room as if expecting the walls themselves to move. The family had lived in the modest Puerto Montt home for years without incident. They were not the type to seek attention. Juan Hernandez, a quiet man in his 40s, worked at the port. His wife, Maria, kept to the house, caring for their teenage son and young niece. But in the week before the police were called, life inside their home had turned into a waking nightmare. It started with small things, objects going missing, then reappearing in odd places, keys found in the freezer, a salt shaker left balanced on its side atop a picture frame. At first, they blamed each other in jest, thinking someone was playing tricks, but the pranks turned dangerous. One afternoon, Maria returned from hanging laundry to find the curtains in the living room smoldering at the edges, as if touched by invisible flames. She swore she had left no candle burning. Another day, the boys' school books were discovered scattered in the backyard, their pages charred. At night, thuds and scraping noises echoed from the attic. When Juan finally went up to investigate, he found nothing but dust and stored boxes. Still, the noises continued. The breaking point came on the evening of February 26, 2017. Maria was washing dishes when a glass jar slid from the counter, smashing on the floor. Before she could react, a second jar followed, then a spoon flung across the room hard enough to dent the wall. The family retreated to the hallway, huddled together as objects continued to fall and scatter without warning. Juan's niece began to cry, pointing toward the kitchen doorway. In the dim light, Maria thought she saw the outline of a woman, tall, motionless, and unfamiliar, standing half in shadow. When she blinked, the shape was gone. Terrified, Juan dialed the Carabineros. His voice shook as he told the dispatcher their home was under attack. He did not say the word ghost, but his tone left no doubt that whatever was happening felt beyond human. Sergeant Olavarría and his partner arrived within minutes. They found the family outside, clutching blankets despite the summer air. Inside, the atmosphere was oppressive, thick, electric, and uncomfortably warm, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The first incident they witnessed was the trowel in the attic. Then came the knife in the kitchen. Olavarría, skeptical but unsettled, called out into the empty space, demanding whoever or whatever was there to show itself. Moments later, a faint scratching began on the wall behind him. The sound grew louder, then stopped abruptly. As he turned, A kitchen chair slid half a meter across the floor without anyone touching it. His partner swore under his breath. In his later report, Olavarría would write that he felt an unusual pressure on the chest, as if standing near a heavy electrical source. He also noted that a small flame ignited briefly on the edge of a curtain before extinguishing on its own. Local news reporters arrived the next morning. By then, the story had spread across Puerto Montt. Neighbors claimed they, too, had seen strange flashes of light through the family's windows at night. One woman insisted she had spotted the silhouette of a woman in the upstairs window while the family was outside speaking with police. The Carabineros conducted a formal investigation, interviewing the family separately to compare their accounts. Each told the same sequence of events, no contradictions. Officers inspected the attic and found no sign of animals or intruders. Wiring was checked. No faults were found that could explain the fires or the strange noises. A local priest was brought in at the family's request. He blessed each room, sprinkling holy water and reciting prayers. For 2 days, the house was calm. But on the third night, the disturbances resumed. This time, the activity escalated. The niece awoke screaming, claiming something had pulled her blanket off the bed. Juan rushed in to find the blanket crumpled in the middle of the floor, far from the bed's edge. In the living room, a framed family portrait had fallen, shattering its glass. The photograph itself was found scorched along one edge. By now, the media had named it La Casa Embrujada de Puerto Montt, the haunted house of Puerto Montt. Reporters camped outside, hoping for a glimpse of the unexplained. Paranormal investigators from Santiago traveled south, bringing cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic sensors. One team claimed to have recorded low, rhythmic knocking sounds in an empty room. Another reported sudden drops in temperature, with digital thermometers plunging by several degrees in seconds. But the most disturbing recording came from a static camera left overnight in the living room. Around 3:15 a.m., a faint, wavering female voice could be heard calling a single word, though no one could agree on what the word was. Despite the attention, life inside the house became unbearable. The family moved temporarily to a relative's home. Within days of their departure, neighbors reported the house was silent again. No noises, no lights, no strange shadows. This raised a troubling question. Was the disturbance tied to the family itself, or to the building? Some investigators suggested it could have been a poltergeist phenomenon, an unexplained psychokinetic activity often linked to individuals under emotional stress. Others lean toward the idea of a haunting, pointing to the recurring female silhouette. No official conclusion was ever reached. The Carabineros report acknowledged unexplained events witnessed by officers, but offered no cause. Months later, the Hernandez family returned, hoping the activity had ended. For a while, it seemed so. But one autumn evening, Maria was in the kitchen when she heard the faint clink of a knife against a countertop. Turning, she saw the blade resting upright on its point, as if balanced by an unseen hand. It fell before she could speak. She told no one, not even Juan. Today, the house still stands in Puerto Montt. Its exterior is unremarkable, painted pale green with a rusting metal gate. To passers-by, it looks like any other home in the neighborhood. Yet those who know its history say they still avoid walking too close at night. Some neighbors claim they occasionally see a figure in the upstairs window when the family is away. Others insist they hear the sound of footsteps in the attic on still nights, followed by the faint scrape of metal against wood. For the Hernandez family, the events of 2017 remain a wound that never fully healed. They rarely speak about it now. But in the official records of the Carabineros, the case remains open, filed under disturbance of unknown origin. And in Puerto Montt, the story of the haunted house has taken root, passed in hushed voices from neighbor to neighbor. Whether it was the spirit of a former resident, a burst of psychokinetic energy, or something that defies every known explanation, no one can say for certain. What they can say is this. On a quiet street in southern Chile, there is a house where the air sometimes shifts, objects move without cause, and a shadowed figure may be watching from just beyond the light.